For the second night in a row, violent protests gripped a Minneapolis suburb in the wake of Sunday night's deadly shooting. Police in Brooklyn Center used tear gas on unruly protesters after they set off fireworks and hurled objects at officers on the scene. According to the Minnesota State Patrol, some officers suffered minor injuries. At least 40 arrests were made overnight, as reports of looting in the area remained limited. 2 armored law enforcement vehicles were rolled out to subdue the crowds that were out past the 7 p.m. curfew. They tried to put a curfew. People stayed out. More than 1,000 Minnesota National Guard troops were also deployed to the area. Willie.
All right, let's go right to Minneapolis. Bring in NBC correspondent Morgan Chesky. Morgan, good morning. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, Willie, good morning. And we are here in Brooklyn Center, about 200 yards from that police station where hundreds of people gathered last night. And we witnessed ourselves as police and National Guard moved block by block, dispersing that crowd with tear gas, with rubber bullets, doing whatever they could to try and get those people out of the way that were causing so much havoc here for the past 2 nights. We're standing in front of a strip mall that was damaged the first night following the death of Daunte Wright. And we're back again today to give you just a glimpse of what happened last night. This is a Dollar Tree store, and we watched as people from that massive group broke these windows, got inside, and as you can see, laid absolute waste to the building. If you can look up at the ceiling, a water main has busted, flooding the interior of this store. And it was essentially a free-for-all for hours last night as police inched their way towards this area, clearing that scene by the police station. This allowed hundreds to come in here, grab whatever they could, and then run off into the night. We did have a chance to hear from police. About 40 people were arrested last night that were taking part in looting similar to this. And this is all following the tragic death of 20-year-old Daunte Wright, which happened here in Brooklyn Center on a Sunday afternoon when he was pulled over for expired tags. And then a police officer that's now been identified as Kim Potter, a 26-year veteran of the force, pulled out her service weapon, said taser, taser, taser before firing what is now known to be the fatal shot that killed that 20-year-old who died a short time later. At this point in time, we know that the Minnesota State Court of Criminal Apprehension is investigating this case right now. We do know that the police chief has said that after reviewing this video evidence, they do believe that this was an accidental shooting. We had a chance to hear directly from the mother of Daunte Wright yesterday at a vigil for her son. She's saying that it is unconscionable that she could have lost her boy to an accident, and she's encouraging everyone, though, to mourn his loss, but please don't do damage to this community. We'll send it back to you.
NBC's Morgan Chesky in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, one of the inner suburbs of Minneapolis. Morgan, thanks so much. So here's what we know about the shooting this morning. The Brooklyn Center Police Department has released body camera footage showing the moment 20-year-old Daunte Wright was shot and killed. Police say he was pulled over for expired tags when police discovered he had a warrant out for his arrest. We want to warn you this morning, before we show that footage, it is upsetting, it is graphic. You may want to take a moment, look away from the TV if you feel like you need to. But here's exactly what happened when police tried to take Wright into custody.
You're not doing that? Don't you just stop, bro. Don't do it.
Oh, wow.
Yes!
Hear the officer there say, I just shot him. At a news conference yesterday, Brooklyn Center Police Chief Tim Gannon says he believes the shooting was accidental.
For informational purposes, we train with our handguns on our dominant side and our taser on our weak side. So if you're right-handed, you carry your firearm on your right side and you carry your taser on the left. This is done purposefully and is trained. As I watch the video and listen to the officer's commands, it is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. This appears to me, from what I've viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge. that resulted in the tragic death of Mr. Wright.
The officer who discharged her firearm, shot Mr. Wright, has been identified as Kim Potter, a 26-year veteran of the Brooklyn Center Police Department. She has been placed on standard administrative leave for now. An autopsy report confirms Wright died of a gunshot wound to the chest, listing his manner of death as homicide. So, Joe, the first blush here from the police department and from the chief is that this was an accidental shooting. We can get into this with some of our experts, but as he himself just said, there's a reason that the taser is placed on the non-dominant side of an officer's belt, and that the firearm, the service weapon, is placed on the dominant side, that the color is different, the weight is different, all those things, anticipating a moment like this so that the officer wouldn't reach for the wrong weapon.
And unfortunately, as the New York Times has pointed out this morning, this has happened before, all too often. Let's bring in right now former member of President Obama's task force on 21st Century Policing, Cedric Alexander. He's former public safety director of DeKalb County in Georgia. Cedric, as always, we appreciate you being with us today. The tragedy, it's a tragedy anytime, any place, anywhere. But the timing of this was especially terrible, especially in the Minneapolis area. What can you tell us about the videotape? You looked at the videotape. What are your conclusions?
Well, it's an unfortunate event, and I think the investigation itself is going to determine and certainly give the public, all of us, a better idea of actually what took place at that moment, at that time. Of course, we know what we saw and what we observed during that moment. But however, that officer, how she could confuse the two weapons, maybe under a great deal of stress in that moment, I don't know. But she's going to have to be able to make justification. And certainly the timing of it, the location, being right there in the epicenter of the George Floyd trial makes it more challenging, but even makes it more challenging than that, Joe, Mika, Willie, is the fact that if you look across this country, relationships between police and community is very much strained in many of our communities across this country. We go from one incident to another incident to another incident that particularly involve people of color. And we cannot dismiss it. We cannot minimize it. It is not a white or black issue for just black people to be concerned about. It is an American issue that we have to confront, because this is unexplainable, it's unacceptable, and whatever was going through that officer's mind when she pulled that trigger and had the wrong weapon in her hand, she's going to have to be able to articulate that. I don't know, but it's horrific, and there has to be accountability, even if it was an accident, because that's what the American people want. So it's going to be interesting going forward, but this is just beyond, I think, any of our imagination when we consider everything that's going on at this very moment.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.